This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 54. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's another wonderful week in the world of Telemark, everyone. Good to be back. I was laughing the other day. I thought the funniest thing is people still think Telemark's dead. We all know that's not. There was a nice meme that popped up from famed alpine skier Cody Townsend, and it reminded me that people like to poke fun at us, and I poked a little fun back. It had a little swimming pool and backcountry skiers and alpine skiers and park skiers, and then below the water, the dead Telemark skier skeleton. So, as in true form, I thought I'd put a nice big nuclear submarine under the water and put a nice big Freeheel Life logo on it, because we all know that's what's up. We're just all cruising below the surface. We've always got the lowest turns, which means we get more face shots, and we're having a good time. So I think it's another great week and another great time to be a Telemark skier. So good to be back. I'm stoked as always. And I just want to give a big thank you to all of you for supporting the Freeheel Friday sale at the shop last week. It was incredible. I hope you guys took advantage of the deals, got some amazing equipment, and yeah, just got ready for the season. It seems it's always this funny this time of year because it seems like we've been open forever and it's only been like a month and a half. So heading into December and praying for snow as always. But today I'm going to be joined by two of my favorite people, Mr. Taylor Johnson. I can't even say his name. Mr. Taylor Johnson. And he's our shop manager at Freeheel Life. And Craig Dostie, the one and only Dostinator. And he's our gear guru. And I love getting these two together because it really provides a unique perspective, and I always learn a ton from these things because when we get kind of these different perspectives, you got the guy that's like looking at gear intricately and all that. You've got Taylor at the shop. He's seeing hundreds of Telemark skiers literally every month coming through the shop, asking questions, giving feedback on new product. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Is now that the sale's been happening, we've been open, people are actually out skiing. I wanted to dig in with those two, kind of get their thoughts on what's hot right now in gear, boots, skis, and bindings, get some ideas from other people they're seeing come in the shop, touch on some problems that we're seeing. So now we can give some quicker feedback to you guys about what we're seeing with products that may be causing issues and how to fix them and other solutions. So I can't wait for this one. So without further ado, please welcome Taylor Johnson and Craig Dostie to the show. All right, boys, what's up? Welcome to the podcast again, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Dostie.
Good to be back. It's always fun to talk gear, tele gear.
Talk tele talk.
Yes.
I love it. Well, I'm psyched to get you guys back on. I'm glad that we're making this a regular occurrence because I feel like it's a good way to kind of connect the dots on sort of some different stuff. You've got the retail aspect, like Taylor seeing a ton of stuff. I mean, like the amount of mounts that he's seeing this year is crazy. So
yeah, it's awesome to feel the energy from everybody. Everybody's fired up for the winter of uncertainty, but one thing for certain is, at least around here, it is Utah and it will snow.
Yeah. And how's Colorado? Are you guys still pretty dry over there too, Dostie?
Well, no, we've gotten snow, but I have not gotten out and sampled it. I just tend to, I'm a reluctant early season skier. Ordinarily by now I might have gone to a resort, but because you can't just show up, I haven't gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a late bloomer too. I usually end up going later, so I don't want to destroy myself too quickly. So
Yeah, I think early season, it's easy to wreck knees and or skis. And I kind of think there's a little thing going on with manufacturers. They love to encourage people to get out early season, not because they want them to wreck their knees, but they don't mind if they put a nice little core shot in their ski because, then they'll have to buy a new ski.
Yeah, that's always a good reason to push the new stuff. It's deep out there, you guys. Deep in rocks and gravel. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad to have you guys back today. I want to kind of. What I want to do is we just got done with our Freeheel Friday sale, and it kind of got me thinking this would be a perfect time to get Taylor's perspective since he's managing the shop, kind of see what stuff he's seeing, and then kind of cross talk with you, Dostie, and myself, and kind of look at more like, technical gear stuff that may be coming up, and just, for me even too, hearing your guys' thoughts together always helps kind of clarify what's happening out there. And I think that'll be good. So I don't know, Tay, what with the whole sale going on, what did you, phenomenal sale. I first off appreciate everybody out there that supported the shop, but Tay, like what are the hot items? What's hot in 2021 season?
Well, we got a couple new things out here. First of all, thank you again for supporting us and taking advantage of that sale. Hope you guys are all stoked on the new gear. This week was good for us to kind of play catch up and just, reassess things after an epic week. Things that are hot, definitely the new stuff. Mejo 3, we are temporarily sold out of size large bindings. So there was definitely, you guys were excited about that, and we're excited about that. Outlaw X still kind of remains king. I think that's still the best dual purpose binding for most people, whether you're just a resort skier and never use the touring mode, or if you're like me and do a bit of both. Outlaw kind of hits that right on the head. Lynx was as well, not as much as last year. I think the hype around that last year was certainly a little higher, but we're still getting Lynxes mounted up. 75 ain't dead. I currently do not have axles, so all the duckbill folks out there, you guys hopefully scored them before they were temporarily gone. I know I got at least one more shipment coming in, so if you're on the lookout for the axles, hit us up, and hopefully we can get you one of those last couple pairs that we're getting for the season. New stuff with Volet, the new TTS binding. I did get the new stiff ones yet. I'm still waiting on the long travels and the tour springs, which are the softer kind of regular springs from Volet on that TTS setup. That kind of, like with them waiting on stuff, that kind of brings into the other conversation of production with new stuff. Like with anything new, I think there's always probably going to be a couple hiccups with just, if one part doesn't quite get done right and they got to redo something, any of these companies are going to have to push stuff back because they need to send you a complete box, or me a complete box, so that we can get them mounted on your new skis. But overall, the excitement on the new stuff is good. I don't know that many people have a ton of miles on any of the new gear yet, so definitely be interested to see when people start actually getting them on the snow. But yeah, I don't know. I think really the only new stuff we had this year was on the binding front, but people are excited about that stuff.
Yeah, and I know one thing on the ski side, I know this was the first year we carried the Bishop skis, and those pretty much flew out the door as far as I could tell. Those were popular too during the last month, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, before even like definitely before we got to December even, but about halfway through November, I was sold out of the Chetty ski, which is kind of their 100 underfoot, really solid, all mountain ski, a little bit of tip rise, but not too much, which is kind of more my personal preference. Like I like to feel a little bit more effective edge. But super fun to see the excitement around that. We're stoked that Bishop's out there, making Telemark skis, and they're one company that I've never seen do a true Telemark ski in the way Bishop did it, because they have what they call Telemark technology, which is kind of funny. That's ARC, so arcing a turn. They basically just did binding reinforcement in the toe, and then they tapered the profile of the core a little bit so that they're claiming that it develops or provides a little bit smoother flex in a telemark turn versus a ski that's more designed for alpine. That may work good for tele, but has got a longer mounting plate and a little bit stiffer, kind of further back underfoot. So, I've skied a previous generation of the Teddy. I haven't got the new ones out. I thought it was just a really solid all-mountain ski, but I still have Chetty and the Gonzo from them as their other model in our demo fleet. So I think we're gonna have them for demos, so that you can, if you're interested in that, I guess next year is kind of when you could get a pair of those. Bishop is also sold out, so snooze you lose on those this year. But I've got demos, so if you're curious about maybe upgrading the package next year and getting a Telemark specific key, we'll be able to hook you up with a demo package and get your personal feedback. I think that's one thing that has always been good for us as a shop, but also you as a customer, is you're actually able to try something. There's one thing of talking in the shop and kind of touch and feel of a ski and seeing how a display binding works, but until you actually get that thing on snow, sometimes that investment in new gear can be a bit nerve-wracking. You've skied your old setup for a couple years, a decade, maybe more even. Some of us really get attached to what kind of gear we like, but I'm really a big fan of the new stuff. I think there's some features and performance that you kind of might have not know you were missing on until you get it out there on the snow. So our demo fleet is probably going to be ready here just a couple days after you listen into this. So we're getting that rolling, and we got our fleet of the Scarpa TX Pros and TX Comps full size runs here. So if you're looking to try something new, I'd be totally happy to get you going on a demo day myself, or have one of our other guys at the shop here take care of you. I have full trust in all my guys. So if you're not dealing with me in the shop, the other guys know what's going on. So just because they're not on the podcast talking about it doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on with all the equipment.
Love it. No, that's awesome. Good recap, man. I want to kind of jump back to Majo 3 and Dostie. I kind of want to I know you haven't put miles on the 3.0, but I know we've been tossing some info back and forth kind of amongst ourselves. And I just wanted to do you have any impressions now that you're seeing people ski on it? And I know, one thing I wanted to hop in is, there are a few dilemmas we've been seeing. And I thought that, as a retailer, I think it's important for us to just kind of bring stuff up, because we want to make sure, one, you guys out there are paying attention yourselves if you see anything. And also it's a good way. I think this is the first year, I think the podcast can be a good way for the listeners to know, hey, like, send your feedback into us, and it helps us aggregate a lot more news and info, just because there's so much more use, going on when everybody's sharing what's happening. But I don't know, Dostie, what are your takes on Majo 3.0? I know honestly, you're the dude who, from the first look that we put up on telemarkskier.com all the way to, mounting it and stepping into it last spring. What's your take now that you're seeing, some of the stuff that's happening?
Well, so a couple things. In terms of what you notice different on 3.0, at least in the current version, which still uses the magic. I'm looking at a new 3.0 here that Pierre sent me, and the 3.0 he sent me last spring, he changed the what I call the shifter stub, or the magic red stub. He changed it to black. He's back to red.
Oh, funny.
Anyway,
shifter
it doesn't matter
shift.
whether it's
We're
black or
calling it
red.
the shifter stub now.
Well, I call it the shifter because that's how you shift between modes.
No,
I call it the kickstands, but
Yeah.
And I like the term kickstand, but the kickstand doesn't tell you that it's what you use to shift modes. That's why I call it shifter.
shifter stub sounds pretty hard, man. I like that.
It's funny because a lot of this stuff, like I'll call 22 Designs and I'll be like, what do you call this thing? And they're like, oh, good question. What do we call that? Right? Because it's the key component that makes it work. Right? And like the duck butt. All right. A lot of people don't want to call it the duck butt, but I mean, it clamps onto, and duck butt came about because with NTN, there's no duck bill, right? So who knows who actually came up with it, but it stuck, right? People started calling the second heel, that connection point in the middle of the sole for NTN. The second heel is a very what's the term? It's just functional, right? Duck butt has some style and flair to it, and then what hooks onto that? Well, 22 calls it the claw, but I wanted to call it the butt hook.
Easy there, Dostie. Easy, buddy.
Right. So anyway, we got to be careful with some of this stuff, right? We can have some fun with it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
that's funny.
I'm digressing. In terms of the actual functionality of the Mejo, the difference between 3.0 and 2.1 functionally when you're actually skiing it, the only difference is how easy it is to get into the pins at the toe, because Pierre totally changed that mechanism of how the two arms or jaws that the pins are mounted to, they kind of they squeeze against each other in the middle, right? And he changed that from a pressure point with a piece of plastic to make the movement over that camming point go smooth. He changed it to essentially ball bearings. And so that eliminates that compression friction point. And when you tap that toe lever, man, it just snaps closed. But then once you're in at the pins, there's no real difference in how the binding skis. It still has very fast, almost instantaneous engagement when you're skiing. It still has 2-pin efficiency when you're touring, which is flipping awesome. And it still has a tendency for snow to pack underneath the flex plate or underneath the spring box if you're skiing in deep, sticky snow, which is annoying. So that hasn't changed. However, he did send me a new spring box. He's got a new tactic. And part of what the problem is with snow building up underneath the spring box is that the kickstand, the shifter stub,
It's like a little cavity.
basically, yeah, it's an open cavity, and snow is going to, I mean, if you've got a cavity, snow is going to pack there. All right. That's just, it's a basic rule with ski bindings, Alpine as well. Right. And so I'm holding here a new spring box where there's no jack stand or shifter stub, and he's got a cover for that, so snow cannot pack there, which means that the new way of getting into the binding, where you don't jack the spring box up on the jack stand or the shifter stub. You just he's changed. What do you call them? He's put some wedges on top of the claw. All right, which allows the duck butt to hit that wedge and push the spring box back. And so you don't have to jack it up. You can just keep it flat and you just stomp on it, and the claw will grab the second heel of your boot. So it allows that. But by getting rid of the shifter stub, he also got rid of, and this I am adamant is the wrong tactic, but he's moving forward on it. You cannot have a flat touring mode. Not possible. Because without the shifter stub, you can't force the spring box to be pushed back so that it will not grab your second heel of your boot. And
yeah, so what's just to interrupt you real quick, what is actually how do you get it to hold back? And for those that are listening to this, and this is like nerd level status, like turn it up to 11, just so you understand. This kickstand thing on the Majo up until this point, you basically kind of put this kickstand up, and then to put it into what we call tour mode, you actually pushed down the lever, the red lever, the shifter stub, whatever we're calling it, and then you latched it, and it actually extended that thing, what Dostie's calling flat tour mode, where the second heel now was out of the way, so it allowed your boot to go flat onto the binding without engaging the step-in function. So just wanted to plug that in there real quick. But Dostie, now I'm curious, because I have not seen this new box, and it makes me wonder, well, how do you hold it out of the way then for touring?
You don't. Okay. That's what I don't like. Okay. So there's no shifter stub. There's no way to push the spring box back so that it's far enough back that there's no way for it to grab the second heel of the boot.
Do you think it's made for something else other than a touring binding?
Actually, he recognizes that just like with alpine skiing, the majority of telemarkers, just like the majority of alpine skiers, are not going to go on the backcountry. Or if they do, they're not going to go very often. Okay? And so if you don't go on the backcountry, this new Majo, I'm going to call it 3.1 because it is a change.
Oh no!
Okay.
Oh no!
Well, I hate to do that, but the reality is it's different, right?
Yeah.
We should probably call it like 3.R, like 3-point resort, because I think Pierre did send me one of those as well, and I haven't popped it onto the box, but that little plug, yeah, basically just turns the Majo into a more of a resort, or downhill oriented binding, because you just took away the kickstand feature. So just toe and flat step in, and we'll see what he's doing with those. But I think it's probably him looking at maybe his binding could be attractive to people that are like the way it skis. The Majo has a certain ski feel, and also maybe just more resort skiers that they don't need the tour mode, and although they're on a 2-pin tech binding, they might just like other features with Majo of the kind of most advanced release system on the NTN system, or something else that might attract. Maybe they just love French engineering, so they might just be looking for Majo for more than just the touring binding, which is interesting.
And here's the thing, it's not that there's no touring available, okay? It's just that there's no flat touring possible with that spring box, because his solution is to have a heel post with a climbing wire that, I haven't actually used it yet, but just guesstimating, that gives a climbing angle of maybe 3 degrees, kind of like, there were some alpine touring bindings that were like that. And so, and for someone who doesn't tour a lot, they wouldn't know that they wanted flat touring mode because they probably don't tour much. And when they do, they're going on probably a short tour, and they're going up and they're going down, and they're not going across a flat zone. And even if they were, because they're not that experienced, they don't know the value of flat touring mode. So they're probably okay. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he did send us that new heel pad that has the short wire, I guess, for lack of a better name, that folds up.
And I like the short wire. Like that's for me. I would want flat tour mode and this wire. I wouldn't need anything more, because here's the one thing that, I've been doing this a while, but and I got a lot of experience, and I have good skinning technique. All right. And a lot of people, especially new alpine touring skiers, they think as soon as you put your skins on, you engage that climbing post. And I'm like, no, you don't need to engage the climbing post until you need it.
Like on the flat, they're doing that?
They put it on the flats, and they're like, it's like, I'm sorry, but I do not enjoy walking in high heels.
Yeah,
okay?
that's
it was a cool thing back in the day, way back in the day, before you were even a twinkle in your daddy's eye. And and I remember I got a pair of those shoes once because it was the cool thing, and I lasted one day in them. I was like, no, I can't do this.
You talking platforms? Dostie, you wore are you talking about platform shoes? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, not close, but not quite.
Like disco style?
It was high heels for guys, okay?
I love it. I'm picturing you in like a Kiss outfit for some reason. I don't know. Anyways.
You got to remember, bell bottoms were cool. Big bell bottoms.
Tay has like no idea what we're talking about. All right,
I have to pull out my history textbook to look at that.
This is
back when Tyrannosaurus Rex roamed the earth.
Welcome to the Freeheel Life podcast, where three dead telemarketers talk about the past.
Anyway, back to the Mejo here. I think it's a good option. It's not one that I would choose because what I was starting to say is I've been skinning long enough that I've honed my technique, and I do not need, especially with the flexible sole of a Telemark boot, I don't need a climbing post until most alpine skiers are on their high post. At that point, that's when I engage the lowest post I can find.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my experience too is on some of those high heel climbing posts. If I need it, I'd rather just set a different skin track that's not going straight up the mountain. Definitely in the Wasatch, if you're following someone else's skin track, a lot of people like to go straight up. They don't even know what a switchback is. Seems
Amen.
like.
Okay, Tay, you and I can go on a tour together.
Yeah, we can take it just a easy skin track. We don't have to climb straight up. Let's wander around a little bit. Find the easiest path of least resistance.
Yeah, I call all the people who go straight up Neanderthals, and I like to do the switchback, so I'm a Meanderthal.
That's pretty awesome. I like it. The Meanderthals.
But yeah, with Mejo, it's I definitely applaud Pierre. He's obviously made a lot of changes since that original 1.0. Every year he's tweaking something just a little bit. But the other thing too with this year with the new toe, which I think is a huge upgrade. Not that the old toe was bad. I think the old toe was very, very good on the 2.1s, but a new toe just has that snap to it. Even just showing people on a display binding here in the shop, it's like when they see that force that those toes grab and how easy it is to get into it, even without, alignment posts. I think you kind of develop your technique to get into a tech binding after doing it a couple times. But, there's also some material changes with using P-backs, which is the same type of plastic we use in our boots. And then this is a little more eco-friendly. He's certainly pushed his marketing efforts to be a little more of an eco-friendly binding, but that's also caused a couple of issues. So if we want to start getting into that,
dive
not everything that's as shiny as it looks on the videos on the internet. One of the pieces that we've been dealing with, mountain customer skis is the new base plastic, which mounts underneath the low-tech toe. It's kind of a really soft plastic, so it's kind of hit or miss as far as what our techs, Wyatt specifically how he's able to torque those screws down. But we've seen a couple breakages on those, so we'll see what happens with moving forward. But I think there might be a couple kinks to work out yet with the 3.0.
So with the original Meijo, the one, and there was a couple variations of that, people were breaking spring boxes. So he modified the chemical composition, and I think the cracking spring boxes, the number of those, if it wasn't completely eliminated, it dramatically was reduced. Okay. And I know Pierre is very much a proponent of the concept of sustainability. And so he's trying to, make his, use the materials that are in his binding to make them sustainable as well. And so he's moving to a similar sort of P-backs that Scarp has gone to that is not, it's not toxic. Okay. It's not based on petrochemicals. It's based on vegetable oil, castor oil. Okay. And so, I have to applaud him for his attempt on that. But sometimes I've learned that if you want something to be solid and reliable and durable, there has to be some level of toxicity.
Yeah, there's definitely some trade-offs, because I think, that especially for us, it's like, if you're local to us and you have a problem, it's easy to get it fixed. But, if you're one of our internet customers that live somewhere where you don't have a Telemark shop, because obviously we're a rare breed at Freeheel Life where that's all we focus on. If you live across the country from us, fixing your own binding becomes a bit more of a problem. So, we're trying to, best we can, is always to provide that service after the purchase. But, it causes a couple headaches for us. So we're figuring out how to diagnose and make sure that stuff is functioning before it leaves the shop. But, it's kind of a bummer when you get a new package and you got a brand new, $700 ski and a $500 binding, and break something just because the materials have changed.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing I just want to point out as part of us opening up this conversation for you as listeners and customers is, one, nothing goes out the door unless it's intact. I know even we've swapped out some of the newer plastic for older, more sturdy plastic, but it's a good opportunity for us to get feedback and make sure you're checking your bindings regularly. And I think, this goes for all bindings. I can't tell you how many times bindings come in that are old and people just don't even look at them and they're about to fall off their feet. So make sure you guys are checking your stuff out there, but also, sending in feedback as products are changing and evolving, I think is going to, again, help us with the bigger community and getting information out to people. So, you guys got anything else on 3.0 you guys want to talk about?
I guess I have had a couple customers on the new flat step-in mode that it hasn't quite worked all the time as advertised. Now, I'm still trying to diagnose the flat step-in issue, but one of the variables we found out the other day, we had a customer that had a new 3.0. He had skied. He's kind of a Meijo loyalist. He's been on Meijos a couple years. He really likes the product. He was excited about the new flat step-in, and one foot stepped in just fine, and the other foot didn't. So he came by the shop with the stuff, and Wyatt and I went through a kind of full diagnosis. So he had, the graphics on his skis kind of lined up left and right. So although his NPNs could be used either way, he had it as left and right. So he stepped into the left binding, worked as advertised, super easy, flat step in. The right binding would not go in. So we had him flip-flop the boots, and the left ski with the right boot still stepped in just fine, and the right ski did not go as advertised. So we eliminated the variable of the boot, in case there was some wear on the duck butt or something like that that wasn't quite lining up right. So the boots were good. And we swapped the spring boxes to see if one of the spring boxes was, mismanufactured. I mean, in any manufacturing, you're going to have a percentage of failure rate or a percentage of something that's out of tolerance. But the spring box being swapped, the left ski still worked. And then the last variable we had to change was the springs, actually. And we looked at the springs, and two of the springs on the right binding were approximately 2 millimeters longer. And that seemed to fix it. So I found a set of replacement springs that were all the same length, and we tried it, and we were able to get both to work properly. And then a conversation I had with Pierre on the phone, he was kind of surprised to hear that, because that way that flat step-in works with the step-in, the spring box sliding backwards to get around the duck butt. The amount of that sliding on the springs, that you can change your activity, and the Midjo is very adjustable. You can essentially ski it in 15 different spring combinations, or maybe even 20, I guess, if you go standard springs 1 to 5, standard spring plus inner spring 1 to 5, red line 1 to 5, red line plus inner spring 1 to 5. So there's a lot of variables as far as that tension goes, but Pierre was surprised to hear that. So I think we're still going to be figuring that out. Maybe that was just a weird one-off case, but we'll see what happens. But there's definitely a way to make sure to get your binding to functioning as advertised. But we had a couple issues with flat step-in, and it kind of confused me a bit, because I had actually put a boot on myself, especially for the internet orders where someone ordered a Midjo and a ski, and we did the mount for them. And before they shipped, I stepped in. I wanted to make sure that was working. So it hopefully, if we're going to deal with problems, we're going to be able to catch that before it gets to you. But I don't know. I don't really have the answer yet for why that didn't work, other than the length of that string was about a half a coil on the string long. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that and update you guys with what's going on. But yeah, like we were saying, I think little modifications of things, hopefully there's not Midjo 3.1.2.1 like Dostie is gonna add like point 0.001. Anyways, well, so I know we talked about in the beginning that was a good in-depth Midjo. That's why I like getting you guys together. Outlaw X, we talked about that. I mean, not much. Nothing's changed on Outlaw X, I don't think, this year, has it?
Really, really, really minor. They changed I think they call it the slide tube is the word, but it's the tubes that connect from the front of the spring assembly back and wrap up to the step-in claw. They changed the diameter. Those are a little bit wider this year. I think it was pretty rare, but I had seen a few people break those wires that the step-in claw mounts to. So that's kind of a real minor change, but as always with 22 designs, in general they make very durable, reliable bindings, but you kind of don't know until you get them to the masses as far as what they do with beta testing and stuff. But those hopefully are a little bit stronger, so hopefully we won't see catastrophic failures on the mountain with that. And I believe they might have changed along that. They changed kind of the angle that some of that stuff rolls against, because there's some variation between boots. Scarpa is basically on spec with up to the NTN tolerance of, I think it's like 175 millimeters for the size large, distance toe to second heel. Scarpa's pretty solid on that. Crispy has had some variation, and Scott, I've seen a couple duck butts being a bit long. So there's a little bit more of kind of give to allow for any variation in boots. But for the most part, Outlaw X hasn't really changed. I mean, that stuff's kind of minor, but it's a major problem if you're one of those people with a short butt or a long butt.
I hope someone doesn't tune in at some of these junctures. They're going to be like, you guys talk about butts a lot. I don't know what's going on. But no, that's a good point, because remember, and I think Dostie and I were talking about this too, and I know, Tay, you and I were talking about that last year, because Outlaw X was seeing weird little variation issues just because it doesn't flex out like a Rotofella Free Ride or a Majo. And yeah, there was some variation with that. I know there was a couple crispy boots we ran into an issue, and I think even last year you were with the Scott boots, right? You guys were adjusting that because it has that adjustable duck butt. Didn't you guys push that in or something to make it work for a couple?
We were able to, because the way they mount those duck butts is it's bolted to the bottom of the boot, so there's a little bit of a adjustment as far as you can adjust the length a little bit. You don't have a lot, so some of the issues too we also ran into with the Scott stuff is that the toe was almost too tall, like it couldn't get far enough into the binding, so we had to remove a little bit of the rubber off the bottom of the sole to get it all the way forward in the Outlaw, because the Outlaw is very specific as far as like the boot needs to be on spec as far as how that step-in mechanism works, whereas Mejo and the free rides or freedoms from Rotofella have a little bit more kind of flex with how those second heel or butt hook closures attach.
You feel weird saying that?
No, it's just I had to throw that in, a little comedy.
No, that's awesome.
Well, let me inject something, 2 points here real quick. What you're talking about is a good reason why, even though we really don't want a third norm in the Telemark world, we need a third norm, because the NTN norm does not define with any accuracy what that distance between the front of the toe and the back of the duck butt is. And more importantly, because of bindings like Majo, TTS, and Lynx, there's no definition for the distance between the two-pin inserts and the duck butt, and that needs to be defined. Now, there's no point in getting into that discussion, because that's something that the manufacturers need to work out among themselves. So good luck, guys, because Crispy never answers an email.
Yeah, well, I was just real quick, just to interject on that. I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dostie, but I think a good clarification for this, because I agree, a third norm, that would be detrimental to like progress right now, but a refinement on the NTN norm is maybe a better way to put it, don't you think?
Sure. The reality is we've got this spec that's necessary that isn't defined. Okay, so that's got to get defined.
Well, and the public, so just listeners out there, just so you kind of get a feel of what we're talking about, this is something I think we've tried to start bubbling to the surface with the podcast, but I think people out there are probably like, what do you mean there's no specs and people don't talk to each other? Yes, it sounds absolutely bizarre, but there's not as much communication as you would think regarding these types of topics out there. So yeah, I agree. If anyone, it's Scott that deals with Telemark boots, or Crispy that deals with Telemark boots. We've got good relationships. Scarpa's pretty open about what's going on, but we would love to hear from you guys. So email us at podcast@freeheellife.com and tell us what the hell is happening. So
there you go. Back to the Outlaw. Back to Outlaw X, okay? A lot of people, there, with the existence of Lynx, Majo, TTS, okay, which clearly because of the 2-pin toe interface are superior for touring in terms of efficiency, okay, because you're not lifting the binding with each step and you've got a frictionless pivot. It's really nice. It's awesome, okay? Outlaw, while you can technically say it's not as efficient, it's inferior, it's not like a full grade below. It's just a little bit less efficient, and it's not something that you really notice. I mean, I did a 5-day tour in the Sierra with Outlaw when the X was, I was using Outlaw X prototype, okay? And, okay, it's a pound, what is it, 1.5 pounds, 1.375 per foot, whereas Majo or Lynx or TTS is 1 pound per foot. Like, you don't notice that. And the overall simplicity and reliability of Outlaw, like, if you're not sure about going with tech toes, don't. Get the Outlaw. You can't miss.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's I think one of the biggest reasons why the Outlaw is our number one seller is the simplicity factor and reliability factor and the kind of just do everything factor. Like, certainly you can ski a tech binding in the resorts, but if that's your main days on skis is in a resort, I don't think it's necessary to spend the extra money on a tech binding. And I don't think it's, there's always going to be some sort of trade-off with weight and durability. So, if we go super, super light, then we're going to have potentially compromise durability a bit. And, I've skied pretty hard on the tech bindings, and, as Telemark skiers, that's a new technology to us. So you might be a little skeptical of, like, do those little pins actually hold me in? They do, but I think for most people, the simplicity of the Outlaw is just kind of the best option. 22 made a great product, but for what the product does, it's just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and the only limitation I saw before with the Outlaw for touring was the fact that you only had one option for the climbing post, and now you can get a dual climbing wire heel post. So really the only difference now maybe is some weight, okay? And like if you're getting a TX comp, you got no choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm in an Outlaw mostly. I mean, I love the way it skis, and I don't do as many days touring compared to the resorts, but yeah, my personal preference on a boot choice, it's just I'm TX comp Outlaw, and I'm happy with that. It does what I want as a skier, and myself compared to Josh and compared to Craig, we're all different types of Telemark skiers, and our different spot on our Telemark timeline. So we're all looking for different performance aspects.
Very, very nicely put to make it sound like I'm not too old, dude. I like that. That was good.
And I am.
Now I'm old
Dostie's
compared to some of the guys working at the shop. So it's like, I'm still young, I think, but these 18-year-old kids are making me feel old.
Yeah, that's all good. It happens. That's amazing. I think that's a good dive into boots and bindings. I wanted to ask you about, we talked a little bit about the Bishop skis, but it kind of got me thinking. One thing I think that's interesting is I kind of wanted to get our take on generalities of skis coming into the shop right now, and like, what are you seeing, Tay? Like, in terms of, like, and I know we're talking, well, we deal with people all over the place, but what are people liking on the West Coast, Midwest, East Coast that you're seeing in terms of shapes and sizes of skis?
I think for the most part, kind of our around here, our Utah daily driver, that's definitely some variation of a roughly 100 to 105 millimeters underfoot. A little bit of early tip rise, that's also my preference, but I think that's kind of what we're seeing the most. That's definitely like super solid all mountain ski. I can still throw it on edge, but I'm going to get some flotation on the soft days. We've seen a lot. I mean, we just get a big mix. I mean, people are kind of funny with their ski preferences. There's a lot of people that are pretty brand loyal, but, I would say, like, we've seen a lot of stuff that's, just kind of like that normal, like 100 underfoot, all mountain ski, early rise tip. That's a very modern shape from basically any ski manufacturer nowadays. Specifically with the stuff that we sell, the Bishop Gonzos and the Volet Ultra Vectors have been fairly popular going to Midwest and East Coast people, just because they're a little narrower underfoot. They're more close to that kind of 90, 95 underfoot. So I'm not talking a lot, but even a couple millimeters can make a difference as far as getting the ski on edge and kind of that quickness and responsiveness edge to edge. I guess there's not really like one ski specifically that we don't sell that I'm seeing in front of. It's a big mix of it. I think this year so far I haven't seen too many people buying some of these super lightweight touring skis that warranties are voided for Telemark gear. So that's good to see. I don't think that's worth the can of worms with a lot of the Polonia wood cores, like Volet, for example, in their Hyper series. All that stuff is not recommended or warranty voided for Telemark bindings. We got a lot of force when we're making a tele turn. We're basically pulling nails trying to rip those screws out. So, with Volet's regular lineup, I think for most people those skis are plenty light. Aspen core is light but strong enough to have binding retention. So I definitely, if I see it when someone brings it in and it's still in the wrapper, if it's something that's going to be, warranty void for Telemark, we're always going to be upfront with you and tell you that. If you want to take the gamble, that's up to you, but always bums me out if I see you snap a ski in half or rip a binding out and you're kind of SOL on a warranty because you stuck a Freeheel binding on it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good feedback. I'm kind of, Craig, someone brought up on our YouTube channel that they wanted to hear what your quiver looked like. So that maybe this is a good, so I would, like you often say, you're a backcountry skier first, Telemark skier second, I think is what you usually say. But yeah, tell people what you're skiing on this year. I mean, whether it's specifics or just generalities of ski shapes as a backcountry skier, what do you kind of stick to?
I've been, as ski widths got wider and wider, I stopped at 90. I was like, I understand the extra width, but when all that started getting super wide, I think NTN had just been introduced, and I was still skiing 75 millimeter predominantly, and just as a telemarker, because I don't have a locked heel, I cannot develop as much edge pressure as I can with a locked heel, and so for me, going wider than 100 millimeters at the waist was counterproductive, except if I were going out earning turns on an epic powder day, okay, where there's no firm snow anywhere. It's all soft. At that point, every extra millimeter of width was a benefit, except for one thing. On the skin track up, the wider the ski, the more snow piles on top of your skis, so the more weight you're dragging uphill.
That's a good point.
So you got to constantly clean the ski off. And so the extra flotation on the downhill also required more weight on the uphill. So there's a balance there. There's a point at which how much extra width is worth it. And that's a personal decision. And for me, I just kind of decided that And I finally did add a wider ski to my quiver. I now have something that is 105 or 107 at the waist. But all my other skis are in the 90s. My typical widest ski is 99 millimeters. It's a Blizzard Kabuki, which is a bonafide without the metal top sheet. So it's still a stout ski. Really good for crud inbounds. So I got an outlaws on those, and they're relative to my other skis, heavy, but I wouldn't consider them tanks. They're just heavier. But being heavier, they can handle heavy snow conditions and not get kicked around. My other skis, I got Vocal BMTs. I got 2 pair. One pair with Lynx on them and one pair with Mejos on them. And I like the BMT. It's a lightweight ski without being too light. Here's the thing. I think you can go too light in a ski. And if you're rando racing, yeah, absolutely. You want as light as you can get away with, because the biggest part of the race is the uphill, and you just kind of hang on for dear life on the downhill. But I'm not rando racing. I'm going backcountry skiing, or I'm going to the resort, and I'm hunting powder. I'm hunting soft snow. So I want a ski that's not too heavy, but also is not going to get kicked around by refrozen crud, chicken heads and things like that. So I found the BMTs were a lightweight ski that's damp, and that's what I like about them. It's very hard to get a lightweight ski that's also damp. Usually if it's lightweight, it's pretty it gets kicked around. It's brittle, it's chattery usually, compared to a heavier ski.
Yeah, I'm kind of that same mindset. I don't like super light where I get bounced all over the place. So, all right. Well, that was a good roundup, boys. That was pretty good. Anything else you guys want to kind of add on that?
Go skiing.
Yeah, go skiing.
I guess I want to add one little. If you made it this far in the episode, thanks for sticking with us through all the gear nerd talk. But, in the shop, I'm definitely feeling the energy from all of you guys that want to get out and make some turns and kind of disconnect and de-stress for even a couple hours. It's definitely been a stressful year for a lot of reasons, but I'm feeling the energy of people wanting to get out, and I'm seeing that at the register. We are like, stuff is flying out the door. So if you want to get into something this year, better do it sooner than later. Cause I'm curious to see. I don't think we're going to have much stuff left over this spring, making it into spring sales and stuff like that. So, just as a heads up, people, there's a finite amount of gear that's produced every year, and this year I think it's going quicker, so get on it.
Yeah, good point. And then in closing too, both these guys have a weekly YouTube show. Taylor's doing the Lowdown with Taylor Johnson. I believe it's on Wednesdays, correct?
I think so. I think he gets uploaded Wednesdays.
But basically, Tay, we're still learning what we're doing, people. Tay's doing once a week. He's talking about different subjects going on in the shop. I think last week he was talking about how to get kids into telemark skiing and kind of going through some of that stuff. So he's got some awesome topics. And then Dostie, he's got Dostie's View once a week. Same thing, deep cuts on the gear, and you can check that out on Tuesdays. So it's awesome. Hey guys, thanks for meeting up today and giving us the rundown and the deep cuts on gear and telemark nerd talk. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, always great to chat, and can't wait to get together and ski, but that'll be later this season.
Yep, absolutely. All right, boys. Thanks for being on, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Adios.
Adios. Always great to catch up with those guys. Man, I'm sometimes we go deep and talk about some crazy stuff, but hopefully you guys followed along. We hadn't done a gear podcast for a little bit, so I think that was kind of a nice opportunity. Like I said, we just had that sale, and it's always good to kind of start pulling all the ideas together that are happening around the shop. And as people are starting to ski the new gear, that's always a massive help for us to kind of start understanding how the gear is getting used, what people are seeing, things that are breaking. And like I said, honestly, I think the coolest part about the podcast this year is our ability to see things in real life, in real time, talk to you out there about what's happening, and then get your feedback in addition to what we're already seeing. So that's a really great way to kind of grow our Freeheel Life community and be able to kind of check things out. And I'm just super psyched that we have that ability to do that, connect with you guys on the fly. And you can always reach the staff at the shop at customerservice@freeheellife.com. And we're checking that daily. And I know that's a great way too, is we're able to actually share videos back and forth and call and talk you through stuff. And, you know, we're finding more and more ways to start sharing that content so that we can kind of find ways to find solutions, you know, to stuff that's happening in faster time. So one thing that I wanted to mention is we are kind of curating better our Facebook group. If you're a Facebook user, there is our Facebook group that's currently called Telemark Skier Magazine by Freeheel Life. You can find it there through either of our pages. If you're not a Facebook user, we're working on something else for that. So stay tuned. Your little news nugget, if you got this far. I know I talked about our little extension satellite Freeheel Life shops. We are still working on those. And we actually trained our good friend in the Midwest the last weekend and sent him with gear out there. So Freeheel Life in the Midwest of the United States, stay tuned, because that's going to be the first one that we're kind of popping up, and we will be getting you more information. But that is step one of our little beta test to try to bring our shop closer to you. And we're stoked. So how you can support us in addition to everything else, you can always make a donation of your choice. PayPal.me/freeheellife. As always, you can shop at freeheellife.com. We want to be your preferred Telemark shop as always, and we want to do the best to serve you out there. No matter where you live, we ship worldwide and love helping people. Dostie, myself, we're holding it down at telemarkskier.com. We're starting to get more content up on there. You can always find all of our video content on all of our social media platforms. The YouTube has all of the stuff from the shop and from Telemark Skier. So everything from Stoke to Dostie's View to the Lowdown with Taylor Johnson and everything in between. So we've got our used gear highlights every day from our boy Nate Nordell, who's holding it down for us at the shop, pumping all the used gear out. And you can always email me at podcast@freeheellife.com. Thank you for listening. If you have an extra second, please take a second to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. And that helps us get in front of more people's eyes and ears. And we really appreciate it. This is a great year for Telemark. Love all you out there. And until next week, spread Telemark always, my friends. Peace out.